If you try to sell to everyone, you sell to no one. I had no business experience. What I did know is how to market to a cyclist. And so I always say to people is like, business is already hard enough. Pick a domain where you have unique experience and you have a competitive advantage. And so I was like, the reality is by building a brand that like speaks to me, this cyclist who loves socks and wants them for every day, there's likely still millions of people like me. Customers are smart. They'll kind of come to the conclusion on their own of what you ultimately want. So like early days, we were like, well, these are socks you can do everything in, but you can't market that message. It's too unclear. If you design the product well, people will come to the understanding of how they should use it, but stay niche to get the message across clear and acquire them in the first place. That's been a 6-year lesson though. Like I didn't nail that like early, and we tried a lot of things to get there, but it's been beautiful to see that work out.
Hello and welcome to the D2C podcast. I'm Eric Dyck. Today we're spinning a yarn with Canada's top sock maker, CEO and founder Rob Fraser from Outway Socks. Rob's sock-strapped Outway to 8-figure sales annually, innovating his business model to reap maximum cash flow, investing heavily into just cranking affiliate program, and overcoming an unwanted rebrand and coming out on the other end actually stronger for it. I hope you enjoy this value-packed conversation with Rob Fraser from Outway Socks. Wrong size, wrong color, didn't look right in the living room? There are hundreds of reasons your customers return products, but returns don't have to be goodbyes. They can be an opportunity to complete the shopping experience. Built exclusively for Shopify, Loop lets you create a delightful return experience to attract and retain more customers. By making it easy for your customers to find products they love, they'll come back again and again. See why thousands of Shopify brands like Allbirds, Chubbies, and Brooklinen trust Loop as their return partner at loopreturns.com/DTC. Rob, welcome to the D2C podcast. It's awesome having a Victoria Titan of e-commerce here. Can you tell me, just start, why did you build Outway Socks?
Yeah, no, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. Why? Okay. The honest answer is I just wanted to avoid getting a real job as long as possible. And so to walk it back a little bit further, previous to starting my business that we're in now, I was actually a professional cyclist for 10 years. So I traveled the world racing my bike. We raced downhill mountain biking. So basically the same equivalent of like downhill skiing. So time trial style through the trees. And the person with the fastest time from top to bottom, without near killing themselves, wins the race. So did that for 10 years and was kind of like on this path of in hindsight was a very entrepreneurial path. I was like kind of in control of my own destiny. I was doing my own thing. I was going after this larger than life goal, and then I was kind of in my early 20s, and it's a young guy's sport. I'm looking like, hey, is there going to be the possibility of turning this into a career that has economic stability far past, my 30s? And am I going to make it to that level? And what are the likelihoods? And, although that year I decided to walk away from the sport, I was ranked second in Canada. It just wasn't clear whether or not I was going to be able to make it happen. So I was like 23, 24 years old, still pretty young. I was like, I'm going to walk away from this sport, the thing I've dreamt of and worked my basically entire life for, that my entire kind of like early teens until late or mid 20s, like chasing this dream. It's like, well, what do I do next? I'm not built for the real world. I've gone after this really large goal and kind of accomplished a lot of my dreams and kind of what I set my mind to. And it taught me a different way of thinking. And so I just kind of entered this 2-year period of, what do I do next? And so I kind of was like, well, the next logical thing is to go back to school and maybe get some sort of education in sport management. So here in Victoria, I went to Camosun College for that. I was just trying to kind of like kick the can down the road, as you said, just kind of like avoid, the real job, the real responsibilities. And so did the first year there, and was like, I got a job actually at the Sport Institute working with athletes and doing that sort of thing, working with future athletes and future Olympians and helping guide them. And it's like, this ain't it. This isn't going to, fill my cup. I can see too much I want to do here. There's far too many limitations. So going into my second year of school, it's like, I need to start a business. I think that sounds like something interesting to do. I had no business experience. I had no real clear idea of what I was going to do, but I was just laying in bed, like, what's the next really large goal I can set and just try to do it. I've done it once before And that's how it came to be. Yeah.
It seems like a pretty good metaphor, actually. The climb of when you got to go up the hill to start. Entrepreneurship and mountain biking in a way, right? Because once you gotta do that heavy climb up to the start, and then once you start going downhill, things come at you pretty fast.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure. And like, yeah, when I first started my business, like things were coming at me fast. Made a lot of mistakes, which we can get into. But yeah, ultimately, like, why I wanted to get into business, I just wanted to kind of like go after that really big goal again. I wanted to build something. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to build a team. I wanted to build a physical thing that I could ship into the world and kind of use a lot of the skills I had acquired as an athlete, kind of booking my own travel, going around the world, marketing myself, negotiating sponsorships, all these kind of like skills that in hindsight, again, was very entrepreneurial. I wanted to use those for business this time, be like, well, can I make a run at this? And then like, why socks? Socks were, as a cyclist, socks are woven into the culture. It's actually a way that we express ourselves. There's a term in cycling called sock doping. And so doping's obviously got a stigma to it now in cycling. But that was a simple kind of play on words to say like, hey, whoever's got the coolest socks is kind of like leveling up on everyone else. So when I transitioned out of cycling into just regular life, I realized, hey, these cycling socks are fun, but they're not that great for all day performance. They're good on the bike. They're not very comfortable for standing all day. And so like when I looked at the apparel landscape, it was pretty obvious that everything with Lululemon and all other brands had moved from kind of sport-specific activewear into all-day activewear and athleisure. And when I looked at the sock category, it seemed to have been left behind. It was still dress socks or sport-specific socks or socks for X, Y, and Z. There was no like, I kind of say yoga pant for the foot. There was no like functionally, technically advanced sock that also looked really nice and was self-expressive and could transition seamlessly from work, play, and activity. And so I kind of said, I was like, well, there's something that doesn't exist, at least to my standard. And I can learn how to build that. Then I can learn how to market it, sell it. And that was the simple insight of like, okay, maybe I'll do that. Yeah.
Very cool. And good, low cost to ship, I imagine as well. Good, decent cost of goods. What would you say in that early part was, you mentioned some mistakes. What would you say early on? What was a mistake you made early on?
The most notable one, and I think is quite common now having chatted with a lot of other entrepreneurs, is who I decided to go into business with. And so, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so like the thing I think most entrepreneurs find themselves in is like, well, who am I friends with at the time? Right. Or for in this case, it was who am I going to school with and who am I doing most of my school projects with? Hey, I'm going to start this little sock business. You want to do it with me? So, I built a good relationship with a buddy in college, and we got on well, and we actually worked together outside of school. And I was like, hey, I'm going to do this. Do you want to come do it with me? I've got a good idea of how to execute, and we'll split it 50-50, and, we'll have fun because, this isn't going to work, like we're going to sell socks, and we don't know anything, and we're in school, and we're just going to kind of kill time for the next 3 years before we graduate and then figure out what's going to happen. And so I'd say the biggest mistake is, that I didn't take the time to consider what happens if it does go right. And it did. And unfortunately, as it started to go right, we found that there was a misalignment on kind of the end goal and what it really means to work hard. And ultimately, it boiled down to nothing to fault him. It's just that he was not entrepreneurial. I just kind of like invited him into this journey. And if you're not kind of cut out for that journey, as you would know, and many others, it's a hard path, and there's much easier ways to make money. There's much easier ways to stay sane. And so ultimately a year and a half into the business, that relationship sort of exploded, almost took the business down. We didn't have a shareholder agreement, no proper resolutions. And so that was my first learning experience of not spending $5,000 on a shareholder agreement and spending, over six figures to resolve the issue a year and a half later. So I just coined that now as like, or think about that as that was my MBA. Yeah. I learned a lot during that time.
That's what it cost.
Yeah. That was the first notable mistake. There's like really small mistakes in there as well, but that one's like the one that almost took it down. Yeah.
Very cool. We focused on the negative, but let's just talk about your growth journey as well for a second here. It's how many years are you into the business and where are you at now, essentially? What can you say?
Yeah, so we are in our 6th year now, just passed. So I started in the fall. I kind of say the first time I put it out into the world that we're building this was September 4th, 2016. It was an Instagram post saying, here's the brand name and we're going to launch a product soon. I still had no idea what it was, but we're going to run a contest and get some hype going. And so yeah, we're 6 years in. I initially put in $1,000. Like I was so green with business that I thought the only way to run a business was to run a profitable one. I didn't know you could raise money. I didn't even know you could get debt. I just, coming from the athlete world, like it's impossible to get loans to travel and stuff like that. So I was like, I gotta make money racing and I gotta reinvest it. So I was like, okay, I got to make sure the unit economics of this business work. And so anyways, yeah, put $1,000 in, and we actually used that grand and grew the business to over 10 million in revenue the next 3-4 years after that, without taking any outside money in, which was pretty cool. And just by like definitely in the early days, not knowing I could. So we just had to I just beat it into my system that, look, we're going to find unique ways to build an economic engine in this business, find ways to push out cash flow, get terms. We can talk about all the specifics, but, and then this year we're targeting doing more revenue than we've done the past 5 years in just this year alone. So it's grown quite a lot. It went from just like me in my basement suite to now we're 25 people in an office, and we've built multiple businesses within our business too, with like a white label program. We manage our own fulfillment warehouse and a bunch of other cool things. So yeah, it's been a journey.
It sounds like you've been able to get consistent traction with it, which is really cool. Talk about the early days and what was the most essential component for traction out of the gate in those early days. You mentioned running a contest to generate hype, and that already alludes a little bit to kind of like how you're thinking about distribution in the early days.
Yeah, like I really I didn't know much about how to market traditionally. What I did know, I came from the athlete space. So right off the bat, I was like, okay, well, the best way to kind of market an athletic brand is to sponsor athletes. So I built like a kind of grassroots brand ambassador network. And luckily I had some friends that were still pros. And so I was able to leverage my past relationships to get my socks on people much higher level than I would be able to pay for in the early days. And they did me a favor. And then beyond that, I was like, well, we need to meet our customers where they are, and where they are is at all of these different events and races. So how do we partner with those events and races to get socks on people's feet? If our product is going to be like one of the biggest marketing engines for us, meaning that the quality is so great, once people try it, they're going to come back and want more. The question I'd ask myself is, how do we just get more socks on people's feet? And how do we do that at scale? And then the beauty of this model too is, hey, I can go to Red Bull. And that was one of my early targets. I was like, Red Bull puts the best events on ever. I really idolize the brand, how they've built this perception around the brand that's really selling sugar water. It's phenomenal. It's a great story. I was like, how do I partner with them? So I just hunted them down on LinkedIn, got some connections, and really forced my way in the door. And so we sponsored the Red Bull 400 event in Whistler, where we were able to give every participant a pair of socks, a pair of co-branded socks. And the beauty of that is, it's a $20,000 commitment. We can do it with in-kind value. So $20,000 of retail socks only actually costs us, much less than that. So we're getting $20,000 worth of value for, say, $5,000. And so that was a really easy way for us to get socks on people's feet. Then we could use the packaging on the back of those socks, for example, to have a referral code or some sort of discount saying, hey, you like these socks? Check out our website, use this code, get more. Now we've captured their email. We can remarket them. We can, send them an email or whatever. So I just did that. We did that at the Red Bull 400. We sponsored Crankworks. We did all the local Victoria stuff. Any small race, I'd go with a table and a little display and just stand there in the rain for 4 hours and be like, buy my socks, really grassroots. I just kind of pound the payment for at least 2 years. We didn't spend any money on Facebook ads for 2 years, nothing traditional. Everything was just product in kind, partnerships, grassroots ambassadors. And I look back, I was like, I'm glad I didn't spend money, because it really forced me to deeply understand the customer. It forced us to really build a base of customers that love the product. And then we were able to scale from there. We had a deep understanding of how to make that work and how to actually deliver on our promise, rather than kind of I always say, if you pay to play too early, you muddy up your data and you don't truly know who's sticky. We knew who was sticky. And so when we were time to pay, it's time to push go.
It's interesting too, because you start in a fairly niche audience. It's a growing audience of professional bikers, right? And you build that sort of authenticity, that connection to the outdoors, the sort of you kind of steep the brand in that a little bit. But I'm curious, is that still your core audience at this point, or have you obviously, to scale to as far as you have, you've gone beyond the outdoor biking niche into outdoor everything, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that was one of the lessons I learned early on is like if you try to sell to everyone, you sell to no one, right? And so like I wanted to stay niche and look, I had no business experience. What I did know is how to market to a cyclist, right? And so I always say to people is like if they're going to get into their first business is already hard enough. Pick, a domain where you have unique experience and you have a competitive advantage. And so I was like, the reality is by building a brand that like speaks to me, this cyclist who loves socks and wants them for every day, there's likely still millions of people like me. So by staying super niche, it is a quite large audience. Sure, it's not billions of people and it's not everyone in Canada, but it can actually develop meaningful traction. And then you actually ask yourself, okay, well, what's another tangential sport to cycling? So the natural evolution there was like trail running and road running, similar kind of sports. And then the natural thing from there is what do cyclists and runners do? They go to the gym in the off season. So I started asking myself, like, what are all the things that circulate? Are these people they're actively doing two or three of them? And then the beautiful thing by that is as we scaled those audiences, the reality was, so our core audiences now are bike, run, workout, and adventure / hiking. And the beautiful thing about those four sports is that they are cross training and everyday activities of every other sport, right? And so like a football player runs or rides a bike or goes to the gym for cross training for their core sport. The opposite is not true. A marathon runner doesn't play football for cross training. It's actually probably quite detrimental to their sport, right? So, it's pretty cool that like by staying niche and talking to specific audiences, we are actually talking to a very large audience of people that participate in the sport. And it kind of like, we just call it like macro to micro, and it's how we kind of approach most things. And and we've just grown those audiences. And the actually nice thing to see is customers are smart and they'll kind of come to the conclusion on their own of what you ultimately want. So like early days, we were like, well, these are socks you can do everything in. Like that is truly what we're building, but you can't market that message. It's too unclear of what the purpose is. But all of our customer reviews usually start by saying, or most of them, I bought these for cycling, but I realized I can wear them to work and I love wearing them to like these events I go to. They look great. I get so many compliments. I'm like, yes, you get it. That's exactly what I'm saying. And the best part about that is they're going to tell someone else, right? And so, okay, let's whip up an affiliate, program now and let them tell the story. And so like, that's been a beautiful thing to see is that like, if you design the product well, people will come to the understanding of how they should use it, but stay niche to get the message across clear and acquire them in the first place. It's kind of that's been a 6-year lesson though, like I didn't nail that like early and we tried a lot of things to get there, but it's been beautiful to see that work out.
You've got the added benefit also of your products being more consumable, because if someone's running in socks every day, I'm sure they're very good, high quality socks, but they're going to consume those socks too, right? Like they would a pair of running shoes eventually. So it's like they're kind of repeat buyers, I imagine.
Yeah, you're right. And there's actually a lot of things. And look, everything I'm going to say on this podcast, this chat is like not a master plan. I figured this out by virtue of doing, which I think is an important lesson too, is like, if you never get started and you don't actually just try, you never figure these things out. Like there was no one to ask these questions. I didn't have access to anybody, but what we found was, you're right. You said earlier in the chat that like, they're a low cost item. There's pretty decent margins. They're easy to ship, warehouse. They're unisex with a low size curve, low return rates. Health Canada says you can't try them anyway. So it's a natural direct to consumer play. All these things, I just wanted to make socks though. These were just added benefits of me trying. And then, yeah, you're right. Like there's other reasons that the sock business is kind of great. There's a high repeat purchase rate, not only because they wear out, they have a natural kind of consumable life to them, but also we add in a lot of expressive design. And so we have people actually collecting them as well. So they're not even waiting for it to wear out. There's actually an added benefit of like, oh, I need 100 pairs because I love all of the animal ones you do, or I love all the outdoor ones, or hey, you just did a gold retriever sock and I have a gold retriever. And so we're tapping into multiple reasons that people would buy our socks. But what's also great is that our number one selling sock is like a white ankle sock, which I think is a testament to the product quality, because like you don't see it and it's very boring. But if you went on our website, you would see all of the kind of pizzazz, and we call it like the peacocking. Like it gets people in. They love the fun sock, and then they put
sock
it on.
Doping.
Yeah, exactly. We say, come for the design, stay for the performance, is what we say. So, yeah.
This is amazing. So I've done marketing at different companies for a long time, and I was like the first to really bring to the market like really nice designed business socks with like bright colors and the logos built in, and they were just the biggest hit on the B2B circuit. So I can see the appeal. I wanted to go back to you've built this amazing. You've fanned the ember, you've built the ember, you've got the ember, you've got the authenticity coming from this amazing community that you've actually been a part of. Then you start hitting the gas with paid social. What has been your experience with meta ads specifically?
It's evolved over time, as you'd know. Like, in the early days when we started, we are probably arguably pretty poor at it, but like given the efficiency of the platform, like it was doing pretty well. But I would say like what I've talked to a lot of other, D2C brand owners and e-commerce brands, and they've grown a lot off ads. And, we our growth has definitely come from our efforts in a lot of other channels. So I'd say like, on 10 million revenue, like we would spend maybe 1 to 2 million in ads. So like the MER is really strong, and you're not like overspending and on Facebook to get there. Um, we are now because like as you know, as you're scaling 8 figures plus, you have to kind of start to pay to play, and there's a lot of spend that goes into it. But um, I could talk more like relevantly of like what we're thinking about right now. I would say like it's with all the changes that are going on, it's really gone back to what I even call almost like billboard marketing. Like it's hard to target people. You're basically trying to stop people on their scroll, and you don't know exactly who you're going to be showing up in front of. So what we're aiming to do is actually just use a lot more user generated content. That's not anything like crazy. That's not anything new. We want to look fairly organic in the feed so that like polished doesn't do very well right now. And so like we want to look very organic, and then just talk about like those added benefits, show the storytelling of the product. You really have to just catch an eye and get people to, obviously just like work on the funnel. It's really shifted a lot more to kind of like traditional marketing, which we're good at because we're good at storytelling. We're great at, explaining why our socks are special. And that took like years of being at trade shows, answering that single question 100 times a day. But capturing the person's attention online, sending them somewhere on the website where they can learn more, hopefully capturing their email, being able to explain that story even more. And then maybe by the 7th touch point, they're purchasing. And in terms of just how we're scaling Facebook, though, we're obviously shifting more to like just a CAC to LTV model. Like how much can we pay? Like how far can we push that payback period out? And then how we're tracking it is we're looking at ROAS, obviously, but keeping ourselves sane by looking at MER. So if $1 in this month, what's the revenue out of it as a whole? Looking at it holistically, because we know where are we underwater, where are we good, where are we exceeding, and when can we push on the gas a little bit more. Found that by trying to get too granular in a short time frame, you're just going to drive yourself nuts. It's just like there's too much, attribution leaks, and we're trying to work on all that. We use Triple Whale right now as well, so we're getting a little more visibility. But so maybe not like a very specific answer, but I would say like in terms of total like mix right now, it makes up about probably our spend is about close to around 20% of revenue right now on a month, which is pretty good. We're still we've got a very large retained audience, which helps. And like we talked about earlier, it's like the we have a high repeat customer rate to it. Like the actual just frequency of designs. We drop new designs every month, so it keeps things fresh and exciting. That's how we're kind of thinking about Facebook. We're obviously dabbling more into TikTok too, and actually something we're really excited about right now is affiliate and referral.
iOS 14.5. The infamous Apple update left D2C brands struggling to find and market to the right audiences. That's why hundreds of D2C brands are turning to Black Crow AI to boost their holiday marketing. Their plug-and-play machine learning technology measures in real time every visitor's likelihood to buy. You can then use these predictions to build predictive audiences for retargeting and prospecting. In short, Black Crow AI can significantly boost ROAS by helping you specifically target people who will actually want to buy from you. Find out why brands like Magic Spoon, Barabee, and Liquid IV are using Black Crow AI to supercharge their holiday marketing efforts. Visit blackcrow.ai/DTC to request a 30-day free trial. I want to share this idea just because it came off of a podcast we just did recently with Songfinch, who's a local company that, not local, sorry, they're a company that makes songs for people essentially. And all of their ads, they call reveals, which are just like, so it's like revealing the song that you're giving to someone or whatever. So I'm always urging advertisers to think about ways that they could turn their products into that sort of reveal type experience, whether it's literally revealing either the new socks or something like that. But I think there's something in that idea of like revealing as a way to like hook people into something, whether it's a gifting experience or I don't know, any other kind of socking experience. I think there might be something there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, that's generally the tone we go for with our UGC is like it's people receiving their order and they're kind of surprised about what they've got. We offer mystery products, et cetera. Sometimes we'll try to keep that kind of element of surprise. They're like, oh, I got these. And they're talking, like, open them, like they're kind of like experiencing the features all at once. And so like I think you're developing that kind of like you're living vicariously through that ad and like almost experiencing yourself receiving that package. So you'd have like some level of trust and expectation of, if I was to order, what am I going to get? Oh, it's going to come in this black compostable poly mailer. Okay, cool. The socks look like this. Oh, they're real. Hey, there's someone real that has the real product, especially in this digital world where you don't know if something's drop shipped or fake or scammy or whatever. It's like, it's really like, I think a high level of trust is important, and we'll loop again, but that's why I like the affiliate kind of model we're kind of leaning into a lot right now. But yeah, I agree. Like having that kind of like package and trying to walk that person through like the trust element of like, this is exciting. And we have luckily an exciting product and a very visual product too, that it's quite easy to be, happy about it. Everyone loves socks, especially as an adult when your parents stop buying them for you, it's like it's a good feeling.
Totally. Walk me through your affiliate program. What's winning with affiliates right now?
So I think like over the past while, especially on Shopify, I was unsatisfied with like the different offerings in the App Store and just Shopify native, like any kind of affiliate solution. I think there is a lot of like good apps that would solve the very basics. Like, okay, here's the offer, and then here's the referral, like the affiliate payout, like fine. But then there's like a lot of second, third, fourth order effects of like, multiple discount creation, how it's getting picked up by Honey, all these other things that you don't consider. How is it like, is it first order, second order? Does it continue? Does it not continue? What are the different ways to pay out? There's all of these kind of like other considerations that would just at a certain level of skill start to break all your systems and cause a lot more pain than you're gaining in terms of like the affiliate program. And then we came across this app called Social Snowball, which I was like, I just basically put out like an SOS tweet one day. I was like, here's what I'm looking for. Here's all the things I want. I need an affiliate app that's hits these certain metrics. I need like them to have a built-in bulk discount code generated in it. I need to have some sort of fraud detection, all these things. Because like we've tried the other ones and they've not worked for us. And once I found the app, the simple insight was like, well, we already have a very word of mouth product. Like the other thing in our reviews we always see is I get a ton of compliments on my socks, right? So we said, well, how do we arm our customers with the ability to say that even louder and earn some rewards on it? And so we found the app, it looked really good. And then we wanted to think like, well, what's a good affiliate offer? How do we really like kind of incentivize people to go for it? So we came up with like, give 15% off, get $15, like earn $15 cash. We want like super simple. The insight there is like, percentage-based reward is not that great because you're like forcing the consumer to like rely on the other person to buy more, and then you have to do math, and that's like just messy. It's just like, what's 20% of the sale? I don't know. I don't really care to know. It's like, you're going to get $15 no matter what. And how we got there is like, well, we know our AOV, we know what we're willing to spend, we know what the projected ROI on this is going to be, and it's success-based, right? So like if we don't get an affiliate sale, we got a small hurdle on the subscription cost for the app, but we know that like this is either going to work or it's not, and like we can adjust as we go. And we launched it within 24 hours, had over 1,000 affiliates signed up, and it's just been climbing thousands a week since, basically. And the revenue generated off it is just incredible. I'd say it's like just another addition to the mix now that allows us to fully fill out the funnel. Like especially if we're if we're willing to accept a lower return on ad spend on Facebook, like how do we arm those people with affiliate afterwards or get them an email and really just increase lifetime value? And some of the things that we've seen off the bat is one, it's getting us consistently 4 to 5x return. So like, we're paying that $15 in and we're getting 4 to 5x on it per sale, which is great. Like exceptional, like it's like old Facebook days, like we're just like, and so, it's increasing blended MER and everything, cost per acquisition, which is awesome. The other thing which was interesting is in our assumptions, we thought that there'd be a suppression to average order value because we're offering obviously a discount on first purchase, right? 15% off of the person purchasing. But kind of what we learned was, I failed to realize is like, word of mouth sales are high trust. So the people that are coming in we've seen them buying a lot more. AOV's actually climbed over $10 for us. And we're talking like an under 100, we're selling socks, right? So like it's climbed by almost 20% just since launching the affiliate program, and on affiliate orders, it's much higher as well. So we're like super bullish on it right now. People are stoked on it. It's been funny to see kind of how much people have run with it. We have people whipping up their own kind of little promotional sites, their own promotional videos, putting it in their Instagram bios. So it's like, it's been really interesting to see. And one of the main things we wanted to be sure of is that it wasn't eroding the brand. So we wanted the offer to be true. We wanted it to be fair, slightly better than a newsletter sign up, but nothing too crazy. First time order only, all the kind of things you'd want to consider, because we do prioritize brand quite heavily in terms of just like, we want to have a lot of longevity in what we're building. But yeah, super bullish on it. It's working really well. It's generated, multi five figures, almost six figures in like 3 weeks. So it's working for us.
And it makes every channel better too. So any paid acquisition that comes in, they'll have an opportunity to be exposed to the affiliate program, which could just make them more valuable in the long run as well. It's the gift that keeps on giving, it sounds like. And it sounds a lot like, in the notes that you sent over to me about this idea of developing an economic engine. Like, rather than slinging a product or even building a brand, I really like the way you phrase that you're building an economic engine. Can you talk about, and specifically how that relates to cash flow, being able to, generate good cash flow? Can you talk a little bit about how you've tweaked your economic engine to generate cash flow?
Yeah, for sure. This one's, again, going to sound like a master plan, but it's just like really it just evolved over time. And so, yeah, all the things we do in the business, we do in a way to just increase cash flow and ultimately be as profitable as we can. And just like, because we were bootstrapped for so long, we did raise in the fall just to like further accelerate these things. But like up until, like November of last year, we were fully bootstrapped. And so like cash was king. And we're also a product brand. So we hold, like close to $500,000 to $1 million of inventory, right? So cash is super important. We're basically converting dollar bills into socks and hoping we can sell the socks to convert them into a higher amount of dollar bills. That's our business, really basic terms, right? So, but early days when starting with the business, I was like a Tupperware full of socks at school, selling them one pair at a time. And I'm sitting in class and I get an email from one of my old sponsors at Muscle Milk. And she goes, "Hey, I see you just like started a little sock company. I need 500 pairs of custom branded socks for our event." And I was like, and she's like, "Can you do that?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I know how to make socks now. That's my new expertise." So I kind of hopped into Illustrator, did a quick little mock-up, basically a black sock with Muscle Milk up the back. I was like, "Do you like these?" She's like, "Yeah." Send me a bill for 500, and so I sent her a bill. It was like $3,000. Paid it. She paid it right then. I was like, "Well, I better make these now and deliver them." I was like, "Okay, cool." Like that was a lot easier than selling one pair at a time, and it wasn't. It was a completely different business because like it was white label. So we weren't attaching our brand to it. It was just a separate brand and offering we were using. And so we've actually scaled that business up as it's a sub brand of ours called Custom Labs. So we offer full white label solution for socks for any other brands, companies, events, etc. And the unique thing about this for like the economic engine and cash flow is that if you look at our current model with like the direct to consumer business, we're purchasing product up front. So it's cash out. Then we're paying to market it, cash out, and then anticipating some level of return, right? And so it's a very high constraint on cash. And so you generally, in order to scale that business, would need to raise a lot of money or take on debt or have extremely high margins, some kind of huge success right out of the gate, which is like, as you know, very uncommon. So the benefit of the white label
and you have
business
markdowns too, right?
Totally.
You have markdowns at the end of it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things working not in your favor on that model. It works at scale and over time, but not in the early days. But with the white label business, like the Muscle Milk example, there's zero risk, right? So there's the lead that comes in, we're selling the lead, we're capturing the sale in advance. Then we've got a 30-day production time. So we've captured money day one, 30 days where we take to deliver the product, plus 60-day terms on the actual manufacturer. So there's 90 days of free cash flow where I know our product costs and our margins. I save the savings that I owe the manufacturer and immediately invest the profits into the branded side of the business to buy more inventory, market the product. And so by scaling the white label business, we're able to inject that cash. It was our investor. Custom Labs was our number one investor, and it didn't take any equity, and it doesn't. There's no debt. It's like the perfect investor ever. And so we spun that up to a multi-seven-figure business that still runs. I hired someone to run it full time, and we have a couple people on that team. And we make socks for Red Bull and CCM and other large brands. And we're just a trusted provider.
We need to get this on our referral program. I think we probably need some custom branded D2C Outway Socks.
All day. Yeah, no problem.
What's been the biggest engine in growing this then? Is it word of mouth? Like what's been the biggest engine to grow this side of the business?
Yeah, the early days for that was like we didn't have a lot of brand reputation, so it was just buying Google AdWords. Like the other beautiful thing about socks is like there's not a lot of people that have built the infrastructure to actually facilitate a really good custom sock business. Like building supply chain that can deliver a fully customized from scratch, like a spool of yarn to a D2C sock in 2 weeks is incredibly hard from like overseas, and get the margins to make sense that you could then resell those if you want or give them away. incredibly hard. But we had two things working for us. We had like the inline business that developed trust and relationship with the business, and then we used the custom business to scale volume. So it lowered our inline product cost and increased our ability to get better margins and speed on the custom business. So it was by building both businesses at once that gave us the kind of leverage to actually move into this model and dominate. So in the early days, we just bought Google AdWords, put them to a simple landing page, captured email. I did it all too. I like ran all of that. I would email the person, design the sock, send it to the factory, have it shipped, do invoice myself. Did that for like 2-3 years of like, and it spun it up to, multi 7 figures, just like off the side of my desk. And then the real insight was I actually met with Andrew Wilkinson in town, and I was telling him about my custom business, and he's like, why don't you like hire a GM to just run that for you? Like, it's off the side of your desk, it sounds like, and it could be much bigger. And so we last year I put my main guy Johnny on top, and he runs that business now. We have a dedicated designer and a marketer on that team too, and they're taking the ball and running. We've introduced custom caps. We're building out that program. We'll look at opportunities to go into different verticals, maybe acquire smaller promotional brands, et cetera, really spin that up. And like in the P&L, that business looks like a software business because it's all drop shipped. It's low labor, no marketing costs for the most part. It's pretty exceptional. And I'm pretty comfortable talking about it too, because like the actual hard part of that business to build is the supply chains. It's not marketing it. It's not building a landing page. Like these are easy things to do. And you can learn and you can figure it out. You can get techie and nerdy, but like the supply chain is like, you have to just like, it's exceptionally difficult, and it's not impossible, but that's been something we've used to develop that economic engine, fund ourselves, and also diversify, because like that business relies completely on different market conditions than our inline business. And so pre-COVID, that was actually the largest side of our business. And then obviously COVID wiped out conferences, schools, everything. And that business took a huge nosedive. But then, as you know, COVID really benefited e-commerce brands. So our inline business shot to the sky. And so like, and now we've kind of come, like our e-com business is still quite a lot bigger than custom because it's grown and scaled exponentially since then, but custom's crawling back now. So the whole business itself and profitability and scale is like all coming back, and it's pretty cool. But it makes me sleep a little easier at night knowing that like, hey, I've got a couple knobs that turn on and off here, and a couple levers to pull that rely on different conditions.
What I'm really curious, because I've been following you since the Endure days when you were the Endure brand. You've recently rebranded to Outway. I'm just curious, what made that happen, and how's it going? It's funny, I just had a friend tell me he's a fractional CMO, and he worked with a brand to refresh the website. He didn't change the brand name, but he ended up changing some of the market economics. He tried to move it to a higher price tier, and he was just sort of telling me that it was a bomb, and that they were right in the process of re-putting the brand back together. They lost some of that brand equity. Why did the rebrand happen, and how's it going?
Yeah, I'm restricted for how much I can say around why, but the kind of marketing terms or whatever the public terms saying is like, we got an email in November, and basically we were forced with a decision that was kind of go down one kind of gnarly path or take the opportunity to evolve the brand and change the name. Okay, so that's kind of like set the stage. It was, a lot of people can probably figure out what's going on, but which is unfortunate. And I would say like, look, we didn't want to change the name, we didn't want to rebrand, and we actually did a lot of things right to kind of protect against this, but the other side of business is it's not always who's right, it's who has deeper pockets. So, that's just how the game works. And if you don't learn to play the game, then you just opt out. So we decided to just play the game and just do what we could take control of. And also just recognize like, look, we could go down one route and spend a lot of money and time unfocused, or we could just get something done and do it right and then just refocus on building our business. So we decided let's use this opportunity to evolve. And, so yeah, we didn't want to. We definitely didn't need another project. We didn't need to go through. We were in like a really great growth phase. We just closed our financing round, and like literally the next day, it was like boom. So it kind of like threw for a loop. But it was really kind of like I look back and I'm thankful for it at the same time, because like a lot of great things have come out of it. Like it's deepened my understanding of brand, our customer base, how we can maneuver with the different things we do in the future. I would say with your example you pitched, people don't like change as much as they think they do or say they do. And customers really like a level of familiarity. So I would say in the case of the refresh and the price, brands often do that because they maybe think they've tried everything else. And as people in the business every day, these things do get stale to us. But you got to remember, your customer rarely goes on your site, rarely looks you up. like they want familiarity, not difference. They're not on it 24 hours a day like founders are, like tweaking button colors and fonts and stuff like that. Like you can go down a rabbit hole of thinking these things move the needle, and they do in some aspects, but in the early days, just kind of like, chill on that a little bit and get back to building a great product. But in our case, I think well, to jump to the end and then tell you how it went really well. So like we're stoked. We ran from Endure to Outway. I can talk about kind of how we got there. And I think why it went well compared to like the examples of when it doesn't is we were super honest with our community. We have like a really bought in consumer. We're able to communicate with a lot of them through socials, like a large social following, a large email list. And I had to ask myself early on, like, who does a rebrand or a name change affect? It changes the people that know about us. A little bit of like our ability to get future people to know about us. So you lose a little bit of like SEO and stuff with changing a name. But everyone in front of us doesn't know us from a hole in the wall. So like, let's just forget about that. We can teach them about our new name. Let's just focus on the people that know about us. And so we're just saying, this is happening. We made a YouTube video series talking about why it happened, told our story, and really invited our community to come in along on the journey. Because what I recognized was like, they don't want change, but if we feel like they're getting behind us on something we don't necessarily want to do but have to do, they'll buy in to the fact that like we're on this ride and we're gonna like support Endure and Outway and like show those. It's a David and Goliath kind of thing. So we wanted to arm our audience with like, this is happening. We also want your input. We're going to change our name. So I want to talk to 1,000 of you and understand, why did you first purchase from us? Why do you continue to purchase from us? What's our brand mean to you? Because if we're going to change our name, let's make it a name that tells that story, champions that mission. And so that's the process we went on. Like, we're going to bring you along for the journey. We're going to take all your advice in. We're going to take this time to not only change our name, we're going to evolve our logo. We're going to evolve our product, improve everything. We spent like 6 months literally just making everything better. So that like when we launched in May of this year, it was just like, just taking everything our customers told us they wished was better and was there with our own kind of like grain of salt. Obviously, you don't want to just do what the customer is saying, but and made those improvements. And what is Outway? Outway doesn't technically mean anything, but when we asked our customers like, why do you come to our brand? What's the product mean? What we always heard is people bought our socks for X, and X was some pursuit of their personal best, whether it was their marathon they were training for, it was an event they were speaking at. So we ultimately like distilled our brand down to our mission to like inspiring personal bests, right? And I thought like, well, in order to do that, people have to be willing to put themselves out there and carve their own way. And so our name was an amalgamation of those two things, Outway. So the Outway is your mission. It's your personal best. We're here to inspire that. I think brand is super important. I know there's like a debate on that. I think like it is at least to our customer. And why they buy us. And like socks are a piece of clothing you put on in the morning. It's the first thing you put on. You look down at them, you see them, you're complimented on them. And there is an emotional aspect to it. And we wanted to really bring that to life with the new brand. So there's a lot that I could talk. I could go for days about the rebrand because it was so in depth, but that was the gist of it.
And good ones feel so much better than mediocre ones. Like the difference between a good pair of socks and a mediocre or bad pair of socks, just like when you put it on your foot, is an experience. So I think that's got to be part of it as well.
Yeah, and it's overlooked. Like it's honestly some of the last things people think about. Like you can't tell how many times we see like someone will spend $4,000 on a new bike and clothing, and then just wear like a holy pair of socks from the department store that they've got. It's like, yo, this could be better. There's a reason. So yeah, you're right. It's overlooked. And so that's another part of like we hear in our reviews is like, I didn't know socks could be this good. It's like, well, here we are.
Do you do anything in merino wool? I've recently just become a massive fabric advocate of merino wool. What's your stance on wool?
I love it. I think it's like a fantastic natural fiber. Its ability to create a microclimate that both keeps you cool and warm. Like it's a fantastic wool. We don't, or yarn. We have actually toques and beanies in merino right now that just launched for fall winter, and then we have some merino socks coming in the fall winter, specifically a hiking specific sock we've got going. And then we're looking to actually weave more wool into the footbeds of some of our specific socks, replacing cotton, because I'm just like, I don't like cotton. I know it feels great and there's benefits, but I don't love a yarn that will kill you if you get lost. So
what do you mean?
So like if you wear a cotton shirt and you're like hiking or something and you get lost and you have to spend the night, if it gets damp, it holds moisture and that moisture makes you cold and then you die of like hypothermia. Polyesters and synthetics and wools don't do that. So like I'm just not a fan of like creating outdoor activewear that like could kill you. And it's also it's an inferior yarn too. It's less durable. It's really bad on the environment. It shrinks. the only thing going for it is it's super comfortable, and it's cheap. So like we always ask ourselves, like, how do we replicate that, but with things that are actually going to make you feel better? And saying keep you alive is very, very dramatic. And like we're selling socks, so like we're probably not going to keep you alive. But I'm just not a fan of like doubling down on things that are not the best thing we can be using.
Love it. Well, I don't want to keep you all day here. I'm very excited for you coming to C-Suite Mastermind. I think this podcast, just with our backlog right now, will probably come out after the actual event. But I'm really excited to be hosting these entrepreneurs there. And I think one of the things that we want everyone to be a little bit talking about is, what's on your mind for Q4 this year? So if you want, what's on your mind this year for Q4 2022?
Q4 is always really important for us, as it is most direct-to-consumer brands, especially in the gifting space. Like socks are a great gift. Like I said, there's a lot of things going for us in terms of the designs, the kind of like surprise element, the cost of it, as well as it's unisex, especially if you don't know like the size of someone or whatever. So we have a very giftable product. So we look at Black Friday very seriously. It's where we'll make 20 to 30% of our annual revenue in like a week, right? So we take it very seriously. Some things we're thinking about this year doing differently, and we've learned a lot of lessons over the last few years. It's not really your time to spend a lot. You do spend to kind of make sure you're getting it out there, like on Facebook and whatnot. But like we look at it as we generally break even or lose to acquire all year, and Black Friday is where we're making our lifetime value. It's where we're really cleaning up on kind of all the costs that we've laid out the prior 9-10 months. And then the channels we're really pushing hard on is organic, social, email, SMS. We're actually launching an app with TapCart in the next week or so. So we're pretty bullish on that. Again, because like we have such a large customer base, I think just the ability to deliver on Black Friday a push notification is going to be something unique. So yeah, really going hard on that. Affiliate is going to be really exciting too. We're going to tweak the affiliate offer, given the discounts on the site are going to be quite drastic. So like we'll have to figure out what's going to help people really get excited about sharing it. But Black Friday for us is really just like pulling every lever we have as hard as we can. And we make a really conscious effort not to do that any other time of the year. We've tried that before and learned, like, we've exhausted retained audiences. We've gone a little too hard, and we found it's almost impossible to artificially, unless you're Amazon and Prime Day or something, artificially create the Black Friday moment. So we just take a bit of an L sometimes up until that moment and then just go all in on Black Friday. So that's advertising. From there, like, we aim to keep things really simple. Like I talk about, like, I think just consumer clarity is great. Like no discount codes, simple discount across site, simple copy. We're just doing it this year. We're doing I don't care about saying it, it's 50% off site wide. Like we've tried to tier it before and like forecast, and our margins support it. We know it works. Like, and it's a great time to load up on gifts, and it's like, it's one time. We found it's not devaluing for us. It's just like, it's a great opportunity. So we're pretty excited. The other thing that we made the change just today is, and kind of a realization I had, and people can take what they want from it, but we spent a lot of time over the last year in the business of trying to like offset historically slow days with like email campaigns or pulling different levers. But then I realized, is like, are we better off just letting those slow days be slow and pull those levers on naturally busier days? Could we maximize the outcome of when people are already telling us they want to shop and where they're going to spend time? And that's generally for us, it's the weekend. It's when people are like around, maybe they're getting ready for that bike, or like, oh shit, I don't have socks, and they're maybe on our site or something like that. So this year we're actually going to launch TBD. Things can change. I've changed my mind a lot, but we're planning on launching on the weekend instead. And I'm actually pretty bullish on that. I think it's going to work because I think people will be sitting around. And look, we usually launch on a Monday. We do like classic D2C. Like we're not launching just on Black Friday. We're gonna be about a week early. But traditionally we do it on a Monday, but that's like almost like the worst day because like everyone's just starting the work week. And are we going to expect people to like step back from their job? Because we sell out things quite quickly too, right? So when can we have the lowest friction moments? So that's another change we're making this year. It's just like we're going to launch on the weekend. I'll loop back with you to let you know how it goes. But I'm pretty confident based on what I'm seeing in our data, and like every business is different too, right? So I think that'll be something unique and exciting.
It's a substantial offer too. You'll inherently stand out from the noise a little bit by doing a full 50% off on Black Friday. Very few brands, I feel, can have the unit economics to kind of pull that off. Yeah,
luckily we've spent a lot of hard work on developing the margins to do that, as well as like it's a volume play at that point. We know like the biggest hurdle in D2C is our shipping costs, and we can outpace that hurdle, which stays fairly flat with raising AOV to a point. And so we're quite confident on the discount outpacing the biggest hurdle with volume. And we've historically seen it happen. So like, yeah, even at that sale, it's not only where we make the most revenue in our year, it's also where we make the most profit too. Because we'll spend so little too. We'll spend so little. We're targeting like a multi 7-figure Black Friday period, and we'll spend 100 to 200K.
Love to hear it.
Yeah. I'll let you know if it
cool.
works. I'm pretty confident though.
If
Last year we did single digit 7 figures, and we spent like 80K or something. So I think we can do it.
So here's my question then. If we were to just give you $50K that you have to use for the Black Friday period, would you just put it into ads? Where would you put a $50,000 grant that you were just given for over the next 3 months, say?
I would allocate it 100% to affiliate offers. Because if I didn't have to worry about that, I would make it so appetizing for them that they would go nuts. Like, again, it's a great, like, the sale itself is amazing. The site's going to convert at 50% off. It's Black Friday, free shipping. Everything's going for us. So if I can get more people talking about it,
right? Yeah, so you can't afford that, right? That's smart.
If I had a bank to pull from, I just load up my rewards bank for these people with 50K. I would go so hard on affiliate. Yeah.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Get those affiliate programs cranking. Thank you for coming on the D2C podcast today. This was really awesome.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I've been a fan and stoked to be on, and thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at direct-to-consumer, all one word, .co. I'm Eric Dyck, and this has been the D2C podcast. We'll see you next time.